My talk is going to be really simple, really short, primarily because the kind of topic that we're starting over here is, yeah, I'm just going to take this mic off, yeah. I'll just take this off. Yeah. All right. So I work with food now, but my background is in my educational background. I have a graduate degree in Bachelor of Dental Surgery, and I have a PostGrad in Stem Cells and Regenerative Medicine. For the longest time, I worked with human stem cells, both embryonic as well as adult, and I worked with creating bioscaffolds and regenerating tissue, whether it be bone or heart or neural or cardiac. I was in all forms of the word a lab rat, a scientist, and I really enjoyed my work. Unfortunately, the government of India put a blanket ban on all allogenic forms of stem cell research and bench to bedside therapy, which is why I didn't have a job anymore, and I didn't want to leave the country because my parents were coming back to India and I wanted to stay here. Even though they're in Hyderabad and I'm in Bangalore, I wanted to be a night's journey away at the very most. So that's how the granola bar business started, and I run a company called the Huda Bar. I swear I'm not a narcissist. It was just something that my friends started calling, and despite my best efforts to call it the breakfast bar, it never took off. It was always, oh, do you have more Huda bars? And I'm like, okay, I'll send some to you and take it forward from there. So when we started the Huda Bar, we became aware of a lot of things with regards to procuring agricultural produce, the kind of impact it was making with the farmers, and how to sort of close the loop. We've done our best to try and create a circular economy, which means that at every stage of the product, even at the end of life of packaging, somebody's making money. And so it is a full circle, and there's no wastage anywhere. While we have not achieved it 100%, we've managed to come close, but it also has its own downfalls in the sense that we're still a really tiny company and we don't expect to scale very much anytime soon. However, these are the principles that I have carried with me towards civic engagement. And that is how I use food, and that's how I lure people in and sort of try and convince them to change behaviors, whether it's consumption behaviors, whether it's purchasing behaviors, with the promise of food. So let's get started over here. Also, I'm not an expert in any sense of the word. I'm always learning, and I'm always open to learning. So if I make mistakes, please let me know, and I'm happy to address them, and I'm happy to correct them and move forward from there. What happened there? Can you remove that? Kiran? I'm sorry. I don't know, I just pressed that, so. Yeah? Okay, great.
Don't press this button.
Which one?
Just right, left.
That's it, right?
Send.
Yeah, okay, great. So, does anybody know the definition of hyperlocal? Would anybody like to tell me what it is? Naveen? Well, hyperlocal means limited to to a small community or a geographical area. And that is what we did. Like I said, when we were talking about, and I'm sorry, let me just go back a little bit over here. All of these things that I'm talking about are easily implemented by every single one of you. If you decide to go back and start this in your community or your area or your building even, it will work because it's food and everybody likes to eat. So we started the Richmond Langford group because we wanted to get people in touch with growers, producers, and creators. We wanted it to be a space where you could directly connect with the person who's either growing your food or making your food and take it forward from there. And what happened was I didn't think that more than 20 people would join. It was just one way for me because I had so many farmers that were coming up to me and saying, look, you know, we have this many tons of rice, or we have dal, or this, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to try and create a community around it. And WhatsApp was the perfect platform for me because I just put out the word in the CWA, which is the Citizen Welfare Association. That's the welfare association that takes care of Richmond and Langford Town. And I said, does anybody want to join this group? I'm going to try and get you in touch with people who are actually growing your food, and they grow it without pesticides. They grow it organically, but they can't afford organic certification. But you can go and visit their place. You can go and take soil samples if you like, et cetera, and take it forward from there. So I didn't think anybody would be very interested. I thought maybe I would be lucky if 20 people joined, but we have about 200, and we're full. We have 256 people that have joined, and we have a waiting list of 20 people. So it's a good thing and a bad thing in that way. What this has done is a couple of things. One, it has opened up a treasure trove of people that we never knew that existed within a 3-kilometer radius, and they're extremely talented. I mean, this is the best quiche I've ever had in my life. I am 36 now, and this is the best quiche. A quiche is sort of like a savory egg custard. Best quiche I've ever had in my life. She's not interested in creating a restaurant or opening up a bakery. She has responsibilities at home. She has elderly parents to take care of on both sides of her family. But this is how she makes a lot of extra money. And she's now much more aware of who her customers are in this area, in Richmond and Langford Town. And she is 5x as busy as she was before she joined this group. I don't know if you can see this, but these are also the best brownies ever. Since October, when I discovered her, I've bought 10 kgs. I've shared. It's not all me, I promise. But again, same thing, you know, mom, 3 kids, works a day job, and is not interested in taking this forward as a business at all, but she really makes fantastic stuff. And I have access to this. 250 other people have access to it. Those 250 people who know another 250 people, however, by whichever way, 6 degrees of separation, have access to it. And she has more than enough work, and she can make as much side money as she likes. But again, like I said, her priorities are different. What is this doing for us? Hyperlocally, this is allowing us to communicate with people. We see people go across to each other's houses, and the communication transcends gender, transcends age, and transcends religion to a large extent. And now we are seeing human-human interaction on an unprecedented level. It's not something that we've seen in the past because we're so obsessed with our phones and consuming information and you know, basically being solitary. I mean, all your information is right here. I mean, why would you go anywhere? You would maybe get up to eat and go to the bathroom, but again, you're sort of served almost completely. But these things require you to get up, get out, meet that person, take an initiative. The other thing it also does is that it reduces waste generation tremendously because dishes are being passed back and forth here and there, and you know, somebody's asking for their dishes, or somebody's asking for better, somebody's taking the initiative to say, hey, can you do this in a better packaging style? And I think this is really important because I'm very passionate about waste generation. Aditya is my husband over here in the red shirt, and both of us are motorcycle travelers, and where we travel in India, it is heartbreaking to see every beautiful place have some rubbish or the other. There is literally no place that we've gone to, apart from, gravel banks, which is restricted to everybody, unless you know somebody really important. And there's no trash. But everywhere else, there's always like packets and bottles and plastic trash everywhere. And it really brought to the fore, have you ever taken a look at the trash that you see on the road or that you see in places that you visit? Do you ever take cognizance of the brands that are printed on these? Does anybody? Has anyone seen, if you took a cross-section of garbage, what would you see in it? Ramesh. Anand, sorry. Okay. Cookies packets, biscuits packets, chips packets, yeah? Yeah? Coke bottles, yeah? Do you ever see tins? Do you ever see foil containers? No, because that is valuable. I mean, like, if you ever have the time and you ever speak to your local garbage collector, he'll tell you what's valuable and what's not. And what's not valuable is what is left on the wayside for the longest time. This is reduced tremendously. A lot of people are now ordering a lot of people have stopped cooking in Richmond Town, and a lot of people have started cooking in Richmond Town. So, it's been polarized to that extent. And sometimes I'm also really guilty of it. I haven't cooked in 4 months because, I get biryani from Dolly, and I get samosas from somebody else, and I get shami kebabs from this person, and I get my veg pulao from this person, and they're all right there. And I love going out and talking to them and seeing what's up with their lives, and it makes a big difference. I'm constantly either borrowing dishes or returning dishes, and I'm constantly talking to them about waste generation. This is in sharp contrast to online delivery systems like Swiggy or Zomato or whatever that you order food from. I mean, although food has become a lot more convenient, it's also started generating a lot more waste. And I would like every one of you to at least be mindful of it. It's not necessary that you make the change right away, but at least be mindful of it, because when you're mindful of it, you have the opportunity to change to an alternative when you have that choice presented in front of you. Okay, so this is about hyperlocal. The next thing is decentralized. Now, the reason why I started this group was to connect farmers who were growing their food organically or with zero pesticide or zero artificial input to the folks who were present in my community. And in this case, it's a sharp contrast to what Milind is doing, because what Milind is doing wants to impact billions, and what I want to do is impact my smallest sphere of influence, which is about 300 to 500 people, but I want them to be mindful of it, because I think that is where change will occur. And change occurs both ways, and I'm really glad that it's complementary. We can start as small as possible, and we can start as large as possible. These are actual pictures that I asked permission for from people. So what we also discovered is a lot of people have farms, and what they do with their produce is they generally give away their produce to family and friends. They don't know what to do with it. And now they have a platform where Mr. Velu posted his lemons at 12:05 in the afternoon, and by 12:14 they were all sold out. And this is what he does when he brings in his produce, and this is what a lot of our residents do when they bring in their produce. They no longer have to scratch their heads and wonder about what they're going to do with this abundance of produce, because now they have access to a community which is so ready to snap up anything that is fresh and trusted and and know where it's coming from. They understand where it's coming from. So tomatoes, banana flowers, brinjal, a whole bunch of things. In avocado season, we are inundated with avocados. Like, there's enough for the community, enough that people buy it for their relatives who live in Indranagar or Koramangala or wherever. And again, this is such a simple solution. You can just start it tomorrow. You can go back home, create a group for your building, or create a group for your gated community, or even your block, and it will work. So try and implement it, because this is one way to have your rupee make the highest impact possible. Your rupee is not split between the CEO's salary, the marketing budget, the distributor's margin, the retailer's margin. Your rupee is going directly to the producer at hand, whether she's making a quiche, or whether she's making brownies, or whether he's growing lemons or brinjals or whatever it is. You have people, senior citizens in our community who have avocado trees, who have people just streaming in and out and talking to them and interacting with them, while they're picking their avocados and just going home. It is fostering a great deal of community strength, and I think that is very, very required, especially now or in the last few years, where we've been polarized and everybody has a soapbox and everybody has an opinion And I think we're just talking at each other and not really listening. So I think this is helping foster bonds of sympathy and empathy, and the fact that these people, there are vulnerable members of our society and there are stronger members of our society, and we can connect the two, we can bridge the two and ask for help. It seems so simple that food is doing something like this. This is an example of a farmer in Bijapur who came to me for help. And he's like, I have so much produce that I don't know what to do with. For example, something like I guess the laser pointer's not working. Yeah, something like the tur dal, which I only found out from him. He's like, I process it in a way that takes 3x the amount of time that it normally takes other commercial producers to do it. Because one, he doesn't use pesticides and fertilizers, so he has a low yield. The second thing is, a lot of people use an alkaline solution, sort of like detergent or soap, to remove the husk. They soak it in the alkaline solution and then they remove the husk easily. This guy, he soaks the dal in just plain water and then he dries it out in the sun, and the husk sort of warps and gets removed naturally. How many of you knew that? None of you. But it makes such a big difference. I mean, this guy, this farmer is taking the effort to do it with 3x the amount of work that is required, because he's also feeding this to his family and his children, and he wants other people to know about it. And how do you know about it? You'll only know about it when you talk to him, when you go visit his farm. And so Aditya and I go moto camping a lot. We go camping a lot across India, and this is perfect. This is locally grown wheat that is pounded by a lady in his village with 5 types of dal that he grows himself, and it's stick to your ribs perfect. It's really versatile. It cooks up perfectly, and it's low glycemic index, so you don't get like a glucose high and then you bonk. So, and I would have never discovered this if this farmer didn't come to me, and because of this person, we have other farmers who are approaching us with mangoes and mango pulp and jackfruit and star fruit, and somebody came with rose fruit as well. We have access to so much more just because we're talking to each other. And we have access to it not neatly packaged in a large supermarket or department store where your farmer gets maybe 20% of the actual price that you're paying for it. Speak to your farmers. It's really easy. Just start a food group. I promise you, it'll be worth it. Sorry? Lots. And lots of people own farms. We have the CWA ex-president has a farm where he grows bananas, and he just brings in like 50 kgs and it's gone in a day, because everybody wants bananas and you have access to it. So yeah. Well, you have to be a Richmond Town resident to access our group, but I'm sure you'll find yours. That's what decentralization is about. You will find yours. It's not just my people. It's not just the makers in my community. There are untapped resources in your community which you can discover, and you can only discover it if you actually talk to each other. So now we go to the last part, which is closing the loop, and the Huda Bar, which is my company. We make organic energy bars, and we do our best to procure all our ingredients from India. There's only one ingredient, which is dates, that we procure from the Middle East, because we still can't find good dates in India. However, if any of you know or have any sources, please let me know. I'm happy to procure it from the farmer directly there. Why are we still tiny as heck? We make really, really good products. This is something that I take great pride in, I've spent time with, and the reason why we got started is because I lost my job, I was pounding the pavement, and I only made the bars once a month, so I could just shove them in my bag and travel and go attend interviews and not have to spend money on lunch or dinner or whatever it was. However, it is also great travel food, and the Huda Bar does not just make bars, but we also make good, preservative-free, as close to the source as possible travel food. We dehydrate a lot of our stuff, and we also send it out to campers all across India. We've had one company, that's the Royal Enfield company. Do you know of it? It makes bikes. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to take anything for granted. So what they do is they also conduct rides in the Himalayas during winter time, and they call it the whiteout. And this year they took the army, and this year they also bought our bars with the intent of bringing back their trash. So they did not take packed lunches for their army folks that they took for the whiteout or the ride, but they also took our bars because of our packaging. Why we're tiny as heck is because of our packaging. We cannot, at this point, scale up. The perfect food packaging is your biscuit and chips packaging, commercial biscuit and chips packaging. What I'm talking about is not the plastic stuff, not the transparent plastic stuff, but the plastic stuff which has a silver foil inside. Now, I'm going to get a little bit technical over here, and if you have questions, you can ask me after I'm done with this. But what you see is 3 layers. It's polyethylene, which is food grade, which is what touches the chips or the biscuits or whatever it is. Then you have a very thin layer of aluminum foil, which is 5 microns thick. And then you have polypropylene, on which your branding and your information is printed. Now, this packaging is perfect for food. It is cheap, it is light, it is flexible. It passes both the barrier test, which is preventing gas exchange, because not just plastic alone prevents gas exchange, and it passes the breach test, which prevents it from being poked and pierced. But it is the worst thing for the environment. There is no way you can recycle it. You can recycle clear plastic. You can melt it down. You can pelletize it. You can turn it into cakes. Furniture companies use half and half. They use half virgin plastic and half recycled plastic. But there's no way to melt this down, recycle it, so it just gets incinerated or sent to the landfills. And this is the majority of the stuff that you see as garbage everywhere. No one wants to pick it up. It makes money for nobody. This is our family portrait, like my friend likes to say. So, we have these bars and we have some more. And that's 300 bars worth of foil and trash that they've brought back. And they're going to melt it down. The labels that you see over here are paper. And not just paper, but this is important. It's a non-laminated paper. Even paper labels have like a thin layer of plastic on it so that it doesn't get scuffed or dirtied. But the price that you pay is that it's not recyclable, or you can't even burn it effectively. If you had laminated paper stickers on aluminum foil, that would still interfere with the process of recycling aluminum, and aluminum is 100% recyclable. 70% of all the aluminum floating around in India is recycled aluminum, and it takes 5% of the energy that it actually requires to mine aluminum. So yeah, that's it. We're gonna melt this down. We're gonna make like a little commemorative ingot or something to frame the army's sojourn into Kalpa and hopefully Kaza in March, in end of March this year. But this is the impact that we see that is accessible to every single one of you here. It's not complicated. It's not reliant on specific machines or specific technology. Of course, you need to be able to administer your group well. One of the ladies that spoke to me about it, she saw me for the first time and she's like, "Oh, you're Huda." She expected me to be a lot bigger and a lot more intimidating, because she said, when we see Huda is typing, we know someone's in trouble on the group, because all I do is take off that forward and no health claims without scientific data to back it up. I want scientific papers. I don't want stuff from webmd.com or medline.com. Go to pubmed.org and pull up scientific papers. So nobody posts anything anymore except food. And that's how I use food to lure them in and try and change their consuming behavior. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm done. So with voter registration, I actually lived outside the Chief Electoral Officer's office for about 3 months until he got sick of my face and finally called me in. Uber asked me if I wanted to make this my workplace or save it as my workplace. But this could not have happened with the help of the CWA, which is a very strong welfare association in Richmond Town, and with the help of Motorcycle Travelers Meet, which is our organization for motorcycle travel, where we try and promote responsible travel across India, where we encourage them to buy locally, stay locally, try and whatever products they buy, don't buy Maggie. Eat somewhere, eat at a homestay. I mean, it's just a lot healthier, and it provides somebody with money. Your rupee has a much higher impact. Please, if you take anything away from this, the one thing that I would like you to take away from this is just the question: is my rupee making the highest impact? And then I think when alternatives are presented before you, you will be much more open to adopting them and sort of propagating them as well. Voter registration is a whole can of worms that I chose not to do because I know there are other people with civic awareness and impact and going on. And food was the simplest thing that I could think of that was accessible to everybody to try and do today or tomorrow or whenever you choose to. So yeah. So questions, please. I mean, I don't race, I travel. It's just, aram se I travel, I get the best mileage out of my bike possible. Kiran, you want to give? Oh. I don't race, look at my size. I'll break easily. I don't want to break anything.
Okay, for this to be sustainable, since you've done so much research on food packaging and reusability, do you have recommendations to people depending on specific foods as to how you could package them and perhaps how you could sell it to them? Because now you showed something like so many stuff you've showed. I don't think everything can be put in.
6 slides.
I don't think everything can be aluminum wrapped. Perhaps you have some other methods, or do you have recommendations to help people package them in a bio?
Are you talking about small businesses or are you talking about people?
Just recommendations for their specific food type.
Well, here's the thing. I recommend for if you need it to be waterproof, right? I recommend clear plastic or just plain plastic over metallized polyester. All these biryani packets that you see that you can buy, don't buy them. They are not recyclable at all. People will still pick up plastic packets. Get the thick ones if you want to, right? There's aluminum foil. You can get industrial grade aluminum foil. You can get boxes. My recommendation is at home, make the switch. Make the switch between bisphenol A, BPA-free plastic or glass. And with regards to the research, I'm sorry, but the future over there is not, I know I promised Kiran that it would be a non-dystopian discussion, but the future is pretty bleak over here. Because the food right now, in the packages right now that you get, is still metallized polyester, and it's still the worst thing for the environment, and it will take a great deal of lobbying with the big companies, PepsiCo, Coke, all of your FMCG companies to actually make that switch. My advice to you is if you like chips, buy it from your local hot chips guy. Make the effort, take 5 minutes, go walk over there or ride over there or take the car over there, buy it from him. That's it. Are we done?
Questions for Huda? Swachala?
No, and that's why I'm here, because I want to tell you guys that wherever you stay and whatever you're doing, take a little time out, build a community. It's really easy. Just ask people if they want to get good food. Everybody will join. Yes, of course.
Okay, so there are a myriad, by the way, I really love the talk, thanks for that. There's a myriad initiatives such as this out there today. The problem is sustainability and being able to take it forward. What have you found are the few aspects or the few factors that keep this going and also get people to sustain it?
What I've found is the promise of delicious food, to be honest, really. If somebody makes a fantastic meal and they say, bring your own box, people will bring their own boxes. A lot of people have made the switch from packets, where they put their food into foil containers, because they're getting peer pressure from everybody else who's purchasing from them. Now, sustainability on a larger scale is not something that I have solved, and I don't know if I can solve. This is something that needs to be taken up on a large scale with big companies, and it will only happen when governments put pressure, and that will only happen when the garbage crisis comes to a point where it's overwhelming. We'll have to be covered by garbage before somebody takes a stand. The lobbying is too great over there. Although I talk about decentralization, and although I talk about hyperlocal, the fact of the matter is when you centralize, you have enough money to lobby, and when you have enough money to lobby, you dictate policy change. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to get off, but please feel free to come up and talk to me.